have with us Mr. Rahul Khare, who is the Managing Director of Aggreko India, which is a company that supports a variety of industries, including the mining industry. Aggreko says that it is all about on. It says power without pause, heating, cooling, dehumidification without end. Could you tell us what this means?
Yeah. So this is, by the way, one of the big discussions that we had to simplify what we stand for, primarily because the industry, the sectors that we serve across, say, from mining to oil and gas to refineries to data centers and manufacturing. So all of these are fairly complex sectors to look at with complex applications, and therefore, to simplify what we do. From a brand positioning perspective, we said let's own the word on or the term on, which essentially means that because that captures the essence of what we do for our customers and for people who avail our services. So essentially, it is about no interruptions, be it say any application that you have, right from, let's say, you had the cricket match yesterday in Delhi Stadium in India playing Namibia. So the backup power was from us, right? So we are doing the for the Arun Jaitley Stadium. So essentially, that is what is keeping your world on. Anything that goes on is uninterrupted, be it from a power perspective, from cooling perspective. But that is essentially what we do. To again make it simpler, so last year we did Coldplay event in India, the large concert, largest in the world, 130,000 people. So from that to say an underground mining application in say Rajasthan, to a refining application in Jamnagar, to let's say uh, manufacturing that's happening across the country in, let's say, automobile in Pune. So this is the kind of solutions that we work on for our customers. But the key theme there is to ensure that work goes on uninterrupted. So like you mentioned, power without a pause or cooling without a pause. So that is essentially what we do in terms of the outcome that we offer to our customers.
That's very, very interesting to know because I never knew, frankly speaking, that there is a business that functions in this manner, that supports. I mean, it's an invisible business that nobody knows
Yes.
about it, but
Yeah.
people on the outside thinks that everything is going smooth and all that. But in the back end, you're providing
Yeah.
the service that, ensures that everything goes smooth. There is no
Absolutely.
interruption and things like that. But it's a very fascinating business that you're in. So to continue with that conversation, when you say that you provide that, how do you provide these logistics? Because it's spread far and wide, right? You have
Yes.
businesses in multiple places and all that. So how do you move these equipments or things, to those locations?
That's actually a very, very interesting question and kind of shows that you understand this in depth, right?
Okay.
Because this is actually a very, very critical part of what we do in terms of operationalizing it. So
Right.
if I were to start at slightly higher level and say productivity for our customers is what we want to ensure, and since we are talking in context of mining, let us say productivity at an underground mine would, let's say, need a certain amount of comfort cooling, certain work environment for the miners inside, because as you know, it's probably the most difficult job in the world,
Right.
underground mining, right?
Yeah.
So with all the safety health hazards that are possible, etc., and temperatures being high, so if a certain amount of cooling needs to happen at that end point where a worker is actually working on mining the minerals that we are looking at.
Yeah. Mm.
So for that, a lot of things go in the back end. So for instance, there is a shaft through which you have to push in, let's say, air at a temperature of 8, 9, 10 degrees for it to probably feel 25, 27, or 30 at 100, 1000 meters below the ground. So doing that, and then and to do that, it needs specialized equipment, which is where I think you're adhering to. And then the fact that we offer it as a service, so we are not in the business of selling any equipment, because we believe that our customers should focus on their core, which is, let's say, mining. and we should take away the headache of sorts of managing everything else, and which is, by the way, our core, which is power, cooling, air utility, etc. Right? So that is where we come in, and this specialized equipment, because it is offered as a service, is owned by us, and we actually charge, if I were to use that term, we charge our customers for the output we give them, and not for the kind of equipment or people that we deploy. So our customer doesn't have to care if we have 20 people at a site or 10. They don't have to care if we have, let's say, 20 chillers at a site or 18 or 22, because our secret sauce is engineering. So we are essentially an engineered solutions company that offers those solutions as a service, right? So that is where we come from, and in that context, logistics becomes extremely important, primarily because this equipment has to move around where there is a need, and this has to move safely. There should not be refrigerant, let's say, leakages. That's our sustainability commitment. There should not be any damages, so that it is, in essence, plug and play. Of course, nothing is like pure plug and play in an industrial context, but the commissioning times are really, really short, so we can come in and do it and get the switch on in matter of days, right? So for all of that to happen, we have to ensure that the logistics is taken care of. Material handling is very important, and India being such a vast country, and some of particularly the mines and some of these installations being so remote. And by the way, we actually feel a difference in terms of the road network that we have now compared to, say, in the past. But having said that, it's still a lot of work, and in fact, we have specialized team to manage logistics and asset planning. It is that core to what we do.
So, I mean, you typically, I mean, industries or businesses like mining, it is a round the year kind of activity, right? I mean,
Yes,
it is not something that is for a few days and all that. So,
yes.
you will be having people and equipment stationed in a place for in perpetuity, isn't it? I mean, so how do you manage
So
that? I mean,
yeah, so it actually, again, and this is a very interesting one, because what we do, um, some of our contracts vary from, say, days to years, right? So we have long term contracts where we are serving our customers for 5 6 years, which is where you said that you go in, do pretty much a permanent kind of structure, permanent kind of establishment. At the same time, there could be something where it's, let's say, needed just for um, efficiency enhancement. It could be needed just for some bit of process enhancement, etc. uh, and therefore it may be needed only for a certain window, or some of the requirements could be for, let's say, a turnaround period. So a plant has gone under, let's say, shutdown, and there is a 15-day or 45-day or 30-day schedule for the turnaround. So it's needed just for that period. So the it can just, application decides the duration that we will be there for,
right.
and our expertise is to really do it in a very modular, scalable manner, where we can come in, do it for as long as you want, for and stack it up as much as you want, and then come out of it when it's not needed anymore.
Right. So as much as you say there's a lot of technology that goes into it,
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
I mean, it also requires a lot of manpower, right? By virtue
yes,
of the nature of the business. I mean,
yes.
I mean, you will be providing an employment opportunity a whole lot of people in India, if I am not mistaken.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is actually because it's a services business, the core to services, while engineering solutions are our secret sauce, but essentially the core to delivering customer satisfaction in services industry is people,
Right.
right? It's the quality of people. So when you say manpower, absolutely yes. I would just add the term skilled uh, as
Right.
a in front of it, to say skilled manpower is the core. And
Yeah.
in terms of the employment it generates, and we are actually very proud of the fact that we are in our 18th year in this country, and the kind of impact now that we are making in terms of employment, not just at the sites and for the services that we provide, we're also coming up, keeping in the vision of, in line with the vision of Make in India, we're also coming up with a large manufacturing and assembly setup in India, which will again generate a huge amount of employment for in India in general, but for this local part of the country in particular. And ours, because of the nature of our business, we're also not concentrated in one place. So while Pune is our headquarters, this is where we will have our new assembly setup and Make in India setup that's going to come in. But we also have our footprints, what we call as depots, where we have our people and equipment stationed, plus repair and refurbishment facilities available. So we have one in Noida, we have one in Bhilwara now, because Rajasthan is a big mining setup. We have one in Hyderabad, we have in Chennai. There are a couple coming up in Gujarat. So there is a India-wide spread of our footprint that way as well. So that's the kind of spread that we have, and of course, each of these have a fair number of people working at each of these. And then, of course, there is as the demand grows, and by the way, we see a very healthy demand, because the sectors that we work in are pretty much the growth vectors that India has as an economy and market. So we this I mean, we could not have had a better time to be aligned with the country's growth, and therefore, yeah, with the kind of growth that we foresee for India and therefore for Aggreko in India, I think sky is the limit actually.
Yeah. So you are at the right place at the right time, so to speak.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely,
Anyway,
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
coming back, I mean, India's mining sector is expanding rapidly, including in
Yes.
remote and infrastructure constrained regions. What are the biggest power and cooling challenges operators face today, and how are scalable solutions addressing them?
So, so this is very interesting, because this is one of the things that we think about all the time, because this is because what we do is not to really sell equipment and get out of the conversation, right? We stay in, we ensure that we deliver the efficiency and productivity for our customers. So this is a question that is core to how we do the solutioning. And if I were to look at it, of course, there is a long list of things that one can look at, but I would obviously want to start with safety, because that's core to any kind of services that are offered in an industrial setup. And in Aggreko, we say we stand for safety for life. So I think safety and health is where I would start with, which is as you expand, as the working conditions become more and more stringent, as you go deeper into, say, mines, etc. So safety and health is one aspect that we obviously always look at first. And in line with that, or an offshoot of that, is productivity loss. I think that is one core conversation that we have been having with most of the operators and customers that we have in this space. The second one, interestingly, is also that with the commitment that pretty much everybody now has to climate and sustainability, so there, it also, if you were to flip that same commitment, it also poses certain demands on how you operate a certain setup. Let's say in this case, a certain mine. So those are also challenges to be solved for. Then, of course, there are these regular day-to-day operation stuff around higher energy cost, higher input cost, and therefore the cost of running operations at an OPEX level. And the last one I'll adhere to, and these are like big buckets, and we can obviously talk a little more about each of these or any of these that you may be interested in. But maybe the last bucket I want to talk about is the skill gap itself, right? Finding the right kind of people. While of course we have a huge advantage in terms of skilled manpower and lots of initiatives at state level, government level, from corporations to upskill people, but at the same time, the reality also is that some of these are the mining in particular. These sectors are very niche sectors, need certain special skills. So getting people up to that skill level and finding those people is always a challenge, right? And also with some of your most experienced operators now in that zone where they are retiring every year or every second year, and new people coming into the workforce, managing that skill or knowledge is an interesting one and a difficult one for most of the operators as well.
Yeah. No, that is quite true because, I've heard a lot of people say, the fact of the matter is that even though we have a very huge educational setup within the country, this thing about employability,
Yeah.
there's one thing to study and other thing to be employable. There is a big gap in that. So when you look at people and when you think that, okay, somebody we can hire, but it's not up to the mark, do you also provide some bridge courses or, hand holding so that, they come in line with your requirements?
So a short answer would be yes, but I would qualify that because there is a lot of nuance to how do you think about skilled manpower or skilled workforce in an industrial context. So I think we have a good pipeline of engineers, diploma engineers, and ITI graduates coming in every year into the workforce. The way I see it is that most of them are say 50, 60, 70, 80% there, but then depending upon the nature of the job, for instance, in the kind of business we are, if somebody has to operate in high voltage conditions, now you need certain specific training, certain specific certifications, and I think and those are available by the way, but it's about matching the job requirement to the skill and saying and I think corporations like ours have to take that bet and say that okay, if somebody is about two-thirds or 70-80% ready, we will take that bet of bringing them on, taking the responsibility of getting this specialization kind of trainings done for them and making them ready for work, because the reality also is that what we do in at let's say a complex site can only be learned on the job. So you will never find somebody who's fresh out of college and ready to do it. So of course you need somebody who has already done it, and that is the I think the nuance that that corporations like ours also have to take responsibility for, build
Mhm.
that manpower in the country, and of course people move around and therefore we end up creating an ecosystem of highly skilled people. I would take an example if you permit that so we are working in these large mines in Rajasthan and some of those remote areas, and I was pleasantly surprised to see the kind of skill that's available in say a small town like Bhilwara, right? And you can find people there who are kind of there, and you get them on board, train them a little bit, and they're ready to go. So it's actually both. But to your question, there is a gap that exists, and I think unless you take somebody on board, train them on the job, give them those specialization equivalent certifications of let's say high voltage, working in a certain kind of environment, etc. I think we will never have 100% ready workforce available. So yeah,
Also,
that's how I
maybe,
would think
maybe,
about it.
maybe like some companies are looking at, maybe you can have a tie-up with some of these,
Yeah.
vocational institutes and,
Yes.
to make them ready instead of you doing it already when they
Yeah.
are studying, they can get all these kind of
Yeah.
experience. I don't know whether you're doing that. Okay,
Yeah, no,
let's
we
move
do
on
that,
to,
and
yeah,
we do that,
please.
and that's part of what I mean when I say corporations like ours have to own up the last 20% bridging. I
Right.
think that's what I mean. It could be on the job, it could be something sponsored by us where we are kind of steering the curriculum towards what's needed. So that, but that 20% bridging, so people are 80% there, but 20% bridging is needed. Yeah.
So moving on, this question about, mining operations cannot afford a downtime. How
Yeah.
do modular and flexible power systems improve operational resilience, especially during peak demand, expansion phases, or grid instability?
Yeah, so this is essentially you're touching now on the core of what we actually do in terms of value addition for our customers, and so I will break it down, and maybe let's start with resilience in the system, because that's an important one, a critical one. You cannot have downtime like you said. So ensuring that, and again maybe I'll paint a scenario. Let's say again. underground mines, 800 to 1000 meters underground. There are a bunch of people working there. Now, let's say a loss of power or loss of and resulting in loss of ventilation, even for a 2, 3, 4 minute period, can cause multiple issues. So there is no light, so there could be lights that go off in that situation. Working just on emergency lights, you cannot really rely totally on them to be productive. So of course the production is down, but also it's now posing a significant amount of safety risk. Again, ventilation out, the temperatures are what they are, sudden unease, and we have had these in the past. All of us have read about cases of people fainting, getting uneasy, etc. So, and those could potentially be fatal casualties. So, right, and fatalities are like absolutely no go, right? So, so the criticality of say continuous power, continuous ventilation is, or continuous utilities, if I were to put it that way, is extremely high. Just to contextualize why it is so important. Unlike say a domestic application where if the light on top of me goes off for a minute, I'll still be okay because I'm sitting in a comfortable AC office right now.
Right.
But it's not the same in field, in say an industrial setup, right?
Yeah.
So that's one, why it is extremely critical, and therefore that is where the technology comes in to answer. And one of the things that we do is offer uninterrupted power, uninterrupted ventilation. What it really means is, if your mains go down, we have systems that will pick up and get online in matter of microseconds, right? So it is practically not even felt, even from a ventil, because what's running behind, and in ventilation it is even more critical, because what's running behind your ventilation system are these heavy machines, compressors, etc. Right? So all these chillers, so these are all heavy machines, and for them to go down and then come up, there could be some bit of time loss. And to ensure that that doesn't happen, the technology therefore comes in. You bring it, and when I say technology, it's not just the technology of the equipment, it's the engineering design of how you go about it. So how do you do the ventilation design? What is the system you're designing? What's the kind of redundancy you build into the system to ensure that if something goes down, there is something to back it up? Or do you have partial redundancies in, let's say, not so critical applications, and 100% redundancies in critical applications? So all of those engineering aspects also come in to ensure that this happens. And uh, so this is about your continuous operations, ensuring that it doesn't go down. But at the same time, you talked about expansion and new, let's say, new work that gets added to, say, an existing site, etc. So there is something that we call as bridging power or utilities, where for that period when, let's say, you don't have grid connectivity, or you have unstable grid connection, which is probably there, not there, maybe the sanction is going to happen, but then you need to start the work so that you are ready by a certain deadline, because ultimately the economics of a certain project would have been done with certain production date in mind, all of that. So what we offer is bridging power there, which essentially means that till you get the line, till everything gets into its end state, in that transition phase, what we can do is we can offer power as a service and come in and do it for that period. And once you're on to your end state, when you have the line, etc., we plug ourselves out and we go out of the door. So so something like that gives the flexibility to to all the operators during their expansion, because we can add up, scale down the capacity as they need. We can prolong the duration as needed. Projects may get delayed, so we offer that flexibility. So having it as a service therefore helps. What it also does is doesn't put the stress on their own resources, both in terms of their capex and their manpower, which could be scarce because this is not core to them. So that team doesn't get stretched, and our workforce is available, to carry on these activities till it's needed, and we can even continue operating till they want. So I think those are some of the flexibilities and options that become available to the operators so that their plans don't get derailed.
Right. Now, all of us, I mean, the world is increasingly looking at decarbonization and things like
Hmm.
that. So, with decarbonization becoming central to capital allocation, how is Agrico integrating hybrid systems, cleaner fuels, and renewable components into mining power solutions to support emission reduction goals?
So this is one of the things that we talk about a lot is energy transition and how we partner, because that's like one of the big global mega trends that we find ourselves at the center of. And mining in particular, and like we have been discussing, that usually you are talking about remote sites, etc. It actually makes it even so to say easier for us to work with hybrid solutions, because of all these areas that we are talking about. Usually in India, thankfully, we have a lot of sun, so solar becomes like the core to how we go about it. And there are hybrid solutions where we have, let's say, a fossil plus renewable source coming together. We have battery energy storage systems that can come online, right? And we have hybrid solutions where you can actually be powering part of it through solar panels integrated with the system. So all of those things are, I mean, these are fairly new developments helping in the energy transition that's happening in globally. And we are very, very excited about this part of our portfolio, primarily because ultimately, I mean, because we offer it as a service, we may be scope 2, let's say, for the operators, but
Right.
then a lot of scope 2, scope 3 is now getting measured as well. So it
Yes.
helps our operators, it helps
Mhm.
us as an organization, because Aggreko itself is very, very conscious about what we do and how we do it sustainably at every step of what we do. So including the fleet planning that we do, equipment that we have, and the way we handle the equipment, all of it. So the gas being core to how we do it. It's not only diesel to power your temporary requirements. So all of those kind of portfolio additions are there. But solar is a big is a big play in how we think of hybrid solutions. And battery energy storage systems, like you would know, become the core to deliver it at the last mile. So
No, it's
yeah,
interesting to know that how, I mean, it's something that we never knew we could tap. I mean, suddenly you find world moving towards green, and then you
yeah,
realize that, okay, sun is there. I mean, why can't you tap it and,
yeah,
part of your energy requirements are met. I mean, it's good for everybody. It maybe reduce the cost instead of,
yeah,
accessing, high cost power and all that, in an industry where
absolutely,
there is so much of use of power. So, how are
absolutely.
digital monitoring, remote analytics, and smart controls transforming the management of power and cooling infrastructure in modern times?
So I have a background in digital solutions. So one of the things, I mean, this is one of my favorite topics, and what I genuinely feel is that digital is the way to go. uh, Definitely when you are scaling it up. So at scale, it's very difficult to scale if you're not digital. But at the same time, what I would also qualify is that digital is only going to be an enabler. So the core of operations and core of the technology and solutions have to be strong. So you still need the right solutioning, you need the right equipment, the right efficiency, all of that to come in, because equipment efficiency is also key, by the way, to reducing the carbon footprint, because your system is more efficient, you're consuming less, etc. So therefore, I would put that as the bedrock, and say that that's still the core of how you go about. But what digital would do then is it's an enabler to drive more efficiency across the system. And remote operations, remote monitoring is core there, because, for instance, giving you an example, that how we think about the fleet that we deploy now in, let's say, a widespread mine, which is and the movement is also not easy and permissible all the time, right? There is heavy equipment moving around, all your trucks and dumpers, etc. So there is a certain safety protocol for you to even travel across. So what becomes important is to have that remote operating center or a remote monitoring center where you can have all the feeds in terms of the system health, system efficiency, etc. And therefore, advanced control systems and remote monitoring become key to running more efficient operations. And also, what it does is it simplifies the knowledge management piece for our clients and us. And what I mean by that is, if let's say we have one large mine and there are three or four sites at which some of our equipment is positioned to because you would need ventilation, you would need all these utilities at different parts across the mine. So if that's the case, then, and let's say you have maybe a couple of really smart experienced operators, and of course a bunch of others, but then the knowledge level that let's say two of your best people have may not be the same with others. So how do you leverage the knowledge with these two people across four places, because they are not going to be at four places at the same time? And I think a remote monitoring center then kind of also ensures that you station your experts there, and rest of the team can actually get the leverage from their experience, where they are talking about the troubleshooting, they're talking about the next action in a certain situation, by analyzing it through a video feed, through the parameters that they can see on a certain screen, etc. And rest of the team can work. So it's not only about more efficient, more real time information, it's also about managing knowledge and ensuring your best people are always at it, right? So the feed coming in is also being analyzed and looked at by your best people. So I
So
think a
do
very
you
big
have a
enabler.
do you have a setup somewhere, a central location in India where this is done? Is it in Pune or somewhere else?
Yeah. So we have a relatively small setup currently, but
Hmm.
we are coming up with a massive remote monitoring center, which will not only do India but a global kind of remote monitoring center. So
Great.
that's something which
Where
is
is that
coming up.
going to? Where is that going
It's
to
going
come
to be
up?
in Pune. It's going to be in
Pune only.
Pune.
Ah, good,
Yeah.
good. I mean those are some of the things that will, I mean, because I mean, in terms of again coming back to the talent, in terms of IT talent, we have got huge talent available, right?
Yeah.
And also it's a place where MNCs can hire relatively good
Yeah.
quality labor at a
No, absolutely.
relatively,
There is an
decent
arbitrage.
cost and all
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's one
And by
thing.
the way, there is not just a cost arbitrage. I genuinely feel there is a knowledge arbitrage as well,
Yes.
because some I think the core skills, engineering skills in India, and the way they have been honed over a period of time, I think we have better qualified, more skilled engineers and engineering talent available in the country. So there is actually a knowledge arbitrage as well, and you
Yes.
can get these experts to work on something, let's say in Middle East or in Southeast Asia. But at the same time, what you also have is a cost arbitrage. So therefore, it becomes a no-brainer.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
with the GCC
undoubtedly,
boom, yeah,
undoubtedly,
with the
undoubtedly.
GCC boom, I
So,
think,
yeah. So
yeah,
now, we have seen, in the past few months, there is this issue about, rare earth minerals and all that
yes,
affecting our industry. And I think,
yes,
that's one of the things which got reflected in this year's budget, where the finance minister
yes,
spoke about, setting up some, rare
corridor,
earth corridors and all that.
yeah,
It becomes strategic because in such situations, because in an increasingly geopolitically volatile world where, you can't afford to be at the mercy of somebody, even for short
yes.
disruptions, right? So as India focuses on critical minerals and faster project execution, how can agile power as a service model help mining companies scale faster while controlling risk and capital expenditure?
Yeah. So I think what you talk about is something very close to what we do, and also personally very close to my heart, because one of the things we believe and uh, genuinely believe is that, so there was this phase where we all talked about energy security, and we still do, but I
Yes.
think mineral security is also key to realizing the Viksit Bharat vision that we have set for
Right.
ourselves, right? So I think mineral security is key there. And like you mentioned, with all the geopolitics that's happening, it's important that we discover more, mine more, produce more.
Yes.
It's extremely critical. And we, by the way, find this to be really exciting time. This whole rare earth push that India has put in is
Hmm.
great for the growth of, I think it has just given that new shot in the arm to the mining as a sector.
Right.
And the corridor that has been talked about is really exciting news for all of us who are serving this sector, because I
Hmm.
think this kind of capital allocation, this kind of investment, this kind of policy support, etc., has not been seen for a little while, right? It
Yeah.
was always treated as a mature kind of industry sector, but now
Yeah.
you see there is a lot of push, and rare earths are bringing that. So I think that is great. And like I mentioned, so mineral security is one thing that we believe is key to Viksit Bharat vision. And in that line, the role a company like Aggreko plays is that, I'm sorry. So is that, and I'll start from where you ended your question. You talked about capital expenditure. So one of the things that we do, and besides actually engineering a solution and offering it as a service, what it really entails into, or what it really translates into, from say a commercial or financial modeling perspective for our customers, is it translates their capex into opex, right? So they no longer have to buy the equipment and then worry about the spares and maintenance and worry about hiring a 50-member, 100-member team to run it. So that capex is out, and what they now can do is take it as a service from us, which is on OPEX. So essentially, they pay for their use, and it's off their books. It's not there. So the balance sheets look better, the
Yeah.
leverage is lower, all of that.
Yes.
Plus, they get to focus on their core, which is to essentially mine more and spend their money, their capex on their core. And I
Right.
think, therefore, I often say this, that what we do on surface seems like a very engineering and maintenance kind of a decision,
Yeah.
but actually it's a very boardroom CFO kind of a decision to go with this as a service, right? And
Right.
therefore the conversation actually elevates to that level whenever we
Yes.
have these conversations with a customer of ours, right? And that also, by the way, makes our job as an organization very exciting, that you're on the ground talking engineering, you're in the
Yes.
boardroom talking
Right.
this whole financial modeling and capex versus
Right.
opex, appetite of our customers,
Yeah.
etc., deleveraging their balance sheet, all of that. So I think that's an important role that we play, and the impact of it, I think, has a very amplifying effect. So that's one. The second, like we have touched upon slightly earlier as well, that the solutions that we talk about, because they are offered as a service, you have flexibility on scale, which is scale up, scale down, and on time. You can extend it, shorter period, longer period. Like I mentioned, we do stuff from 6 hours to 6 years, right? And everything in between. So I think that is the kind of flexibility. And when I say flexibility, that is the flexibility available to our customers, in this case, say mine operators, or let's say any other sector that we are talking about. And for us, this is it's tough logistically, it's tough operationally, but that is the differentiator, that is the real competitive advantage we bring for our customers, and therefore core to us. So we have now, so to say, mastered the art of doing all of this, and therefore we could bring this kind of solutioning to them. And uh, and what also matters is the speed at which this can be done, because let's say efficiency enhancement, if that's, or productivity enhancement, if something we are talking about, there is a certain window of opportunity. There is no point in, let's say, setting up a system after the window is gone,
Yes.
and there is nothing to then gain
Yeah.
from, right?
Right. Right.
So doing it timely is also equally important.
Right.
And therefore, yeah, operationally, I am very sure that my teams have a very tough time,
Right.
But then at the same time, this is what we specialize in. So, and the outcome of it in terms of the economic impact that it can have on our customers is extremely high. So at the end of it, what also is very satisfying is that you can see the impact, you can measure the impact, and feel good about what gets created overall.
Great. I mean, honestly, I'm very enlightened with the conversation with you because this is a very exciting thing which I never knew existed. I mean, sorry for my ignorance, but
No, no,
when
not at all.
looking at it, it's a
Uh,
very, very niche sector, but it's also plays a very critical role in the entire. I
yes.
mean, for instance, in the mining industry. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that we had this conversation today. So what we will do is, we have this event on the 18th in Kolkata.
Yes.
I'm sure you will
Yes.
be attending that. We will take some of these forward when we meet and we have this discussion there on that day. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
So Manoj, just one quick question there though. So as of now, there was a competing engagement, and of course we are participating. There are a couple of people from my team there. I'm personally not there as of now.
Okay.
You think it's manageable, or you think I should be there?
It would be great if you are there because, coming from you, I mean, of the stature, you are the managing director of the India operations. It would be great if you can make it. And that's my
Okay.
request. That's my request because
Okay.
it will add, I mean, it would add tremendous value, your presence there.
Sure.
That's something
So
we
let
look
me
forward to.
Sure. No, let me see if I can
Yeah,
turn a few things around, manage a
yeah,
few things on my
please.
calendar to be there. But like I mentioned, Aggreko is there. A couple of very capable teammates of mine are there. So
But
we will have our presence.
coming from you,
Yeah.
the audience, some of them would look forward to you as the top person. I mean, who is the
Yeah.
leader there in your
Yeah.
company, and
Yeah.
it would be great for people to interact. And that's all
Yes.
about the events are all about that, right? So let's
Absolutely.
keep it for
Absolutely.
that. And thank you so much
Sure.
for your time today.
I
It
had
was a pleasure talking
yeah.
to you.
My pleasure,
Thank you.
Manoj. I had a very good conversation, and I'm really happy that I was talking to somebody who actually understands the industry, understands what we do so well that
Thank
it
you.
was actually very, very easy for me to talk through all of this. Right. So, really,
Appreciate
really
that. Yeah.
appreciate this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.